I wish I had this app a few years ago because I remember going to Aruba for a friend's wedding, right? And I would look at the wedding website to see if there was updated details. And Aruba, we're getting closer to leaving. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there for 5 days. I wasn't in the wedding party, but I was, one of 30 guests attending. And I remember thinking, I'm like, do they want us help with anything? Do they want us to attend anything? Is it just for the party? Wasn't sure what was going on. So, I'm texting the bride and kind of felt a little bad because I know she was leaving ahead of everybody else. And I was looking at it from the perspective of as a wedding guest, right? Like, I wish I had this app so I knew exactly what was going on.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and today I am so excited to welcome to the show Nicole and Jen from the Wedding Crashers app. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
So this is going to be a very interesting conversation to me because Wedding Crashers, this app that you've created, it's all about guest experience, right? It's all about kind of increasing the side. Wedding Crashers, when I hear that, of course, I think about the hilarious movie with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. Where did the idea from this app come from? Like, how did this thing get birthed?
Sure. So I'm actually a wedding planner. This is Jen, wedding planner, and actually just got back from signing on my own venue. So I'm one of you guys now. And this app came to be during COVID. I was out walking my COVID puppy because we all got one, right?
You did.
And and it came to me because I was trying to think of ways to diversify my income. And one of the things that really struck me was all of the questions that I'm constantly asked when I'm doing a wedding. And so I was thinking of ways to get the information to the guests so that they kind of know everything they need to know, and I can focus my attention on my couple, the ones that actually hired me, right? And so all of this came together, and while I was walking my dog, I was like, you know what, Wedding Crasher, all of the information in your hands. If somebody were to be a wedding crasher, they could totally crash with all of the information that we're giving them, right? And so that's kind of how the idea came about. And then I just started thinking through all of those questions that I had, what makes sense to give to the guests, what doesn't make sense. And then it snowballed from there.
That's amazing. So where did the kind of, and you threw that thing in there about the venue. We're going to have to come back around to that. But where did you and Nicole kind of get connected on this?
Yes. So we met a long time ago. We both worked for the same Fortune 500 company in the same business unit. And so we met there, and Nicole can talk a little bit more about her background, but she was a former entrepreneur as well. And so she kind of helped guide me in some of the earlier stages of my planning company. And so, rein in some of my ideas because I'm all over the place. And we stayed friends. And then when this idea came about, I thought, who would be a good partner with this? Who understands entrepreneurship, who understands business? She's in a tech role at her current job. And so, she understands the app part of it as well. And so it just kind of came together. I pitched it, and, it's just beautiful synergy.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, go ahead. Take it away, Nicole.
Yeah, no, as Jen mentioned, we met a long time ago working at the same company, and I still work there. So I definitely have that corporate background, but I actually started out my journey after college doing entrepreneurship. So I started doing events in an industry and had multiple events every single month for the group that I was leading at the time. And then in my previous role where Jen and I worked together, I did a lot of activities for employees. And so one thing, we were always trying to be buttoned up, trying to make it a really great experience for our employees, and always sent them the information ahead of time, but it was inevitable. Nobody looked at anything until maybe the day of, if you were lucky, but usually not. So, I'm super organized. I love being organized. I still do it in my current role. So, we really, when she presented this idea, I wanted to make sure it was something that, I could see the benefit of it, not only from the wedding guest experience, but also even from whenever you're gathering a large number of people tend to not really look at the information until they're really almost at the event or the day before. So really trying to make sure everybody, knows what they have to do, where to be, just to make sure it's a really great experience for everybody.
So let me get this straight, just in terms of practical application. A couple would utilize the app and they would put the information that guests need to know about transportation or a seating chart I saw or some different features, all of those kind of like need to know things. You've perfectly described me as a user. I'm like, oh yeah, we got invited to that wedding. And then I forget about it until we're probably on our way. Maybe like it.
Right.
Then I'm like, wait, do we know anything at that point?
Right.
So at that point, we would either scan a QR code or we would have that app. And then that would be kind of my guide to the day or to the weekend or whatever.
Exactly. And what we like to say about it is you create your own experience as a guest. So with the information that you're given within the app, you can choose what you participate in and what you don't. So if you say, okay, I'm looking at the order of events here and, they just did the first dance, they've got the father-daughter dance, but it looks like they have a late night snack of Chick-fil-A and I'm staying for that, right? So I can kind of say, I know I'm going to stay, or, hey, the rest of the night it's just dancing. I'm not a big dancer. I'm probably going to take the early shuttle, right? So they can kind of curate their own experience for your wedding, which makes it even more unique.
That's huge. That is so cool. Okay, so before we dive into more, because I have more questions and all that, but I just want to ask about the two of you working together, because I'm constantly interested how founders work together and not even founders as much as like how people collaborate effectively in business, especially for something like this. What individually do each of you do for the company as a whole? I know it's probably a lot of wearing all of the hats, but like what's the division of labor currently?
You can go.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I mean, I think like anybody, we try to, obviously we work really well together, but we also try to really kind of play on each other's strengths and, abilities, because Jen obviously has all the experience in the wedding planning industry as a wedding planner. She's, got a lot of connections, of course. She's part of all the groups. So she's got all that experience, we're probably write about 5 books at this point, all the do's and don'ts of wedding planning, right? And really for me, I think I lean more toward, the business side of things, more of the strategy, because, ultimately there's multiple things that of course we can say yes to that we want to do. There's no shortage of ideas. Jen's a great idea generator, but really what's, how should we be spending our time? Where should we be spending our time and effort? And, I try to lead in that direction.
Very cool.
So I think that, a good way to put this for everybody out there that owns a venue, this is the creative's dream partnership, right? Because she takes on the business side and I get to be the creative. So I created the app, but she gets to take on all the gross stuff that I don't like doing in my other companies. I don't like doing the taxes. I don't like doing all that stuff. And of course I help her with that. But, I get the freedom to really look into the different features. I'm the one that is watching the guests use this on a weekend to weekend basis. And so can come up with other features. I'm the one that, is talking to pros at networking events and things like that, where I might just organically bring it up and they say, oh, well, I'd love to have this feature. And so being able to really just constantly brainstorm, which I love to do, and then bring it back to Nicole, we kind of massage it, see what makes sense. And then she, looks at the feasibility from a numbers perspective and is looking at the downloads and is looking at the numbers and all of those different things for us, which, takes that off of my plate, which just lets me get all that freedom and just continue creating, which I love.
Well, and you said freedom twice. And I think that is so true in that classic, like visionary integrator combination to have someone, it's freedom for both of you, because, there are probably many things that Nicole would maybe rather not do that you're taking on and vice versa. So very neat. At what stage are we talking to you at this business? I know, you kind of picked off the idea, when you a couple of years ago when you first started during COVID, but when, how long has this been in business? Like how many users do you have? Where are you in the growth cycle?
I'll let Nicole talk about the numbers and the growth here. But we did a soft launch at Wedding MBA a couple years back, just to kind of get the viability of it and see if people would be interested before we fully fleshed it out. And so when that went really well, we decided to just kind of hone in on the different features, make sure that everything was operating well, right? Get it to a place of MVP, right? Where it's operable. And so now we're in the App Store. We are getting everything into Apple first and then moving over to Android, so that we have it on both platforms. And we are adding as many features as we can, as quickly as we can. We have a very big vision for this. And so we're just making sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves and just making sure that each feature is given the time and attention that it needs to function properly so that event pros that are using this or couples or guests that are using this have the best experience possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would agree. I was just going to add that, to Jen's point, there's no shortage of ideas. She has, if you look at our roadmap, we have pages and pages of ideas to go through. And to her point, we wanted to make sure we're giving the time and attention to the features that are most important for our users, right? The wedding pros, the venue owners, obviously the wedding guests, the couples. So what are those most important features? And really make sure we get that right. So we have a roadmap, of course, it's I would say multi-year. So we're just getting started, I think. Even though we've had the idea for a couple of years, we've rolled it out. As Jen mentioned, we are in the App Store with Apple. We do want to bring an Android version along as well. But we're really getting those features in place. Like we just actually, not too long ago, implemented a multi-day feature for the app, right? So if you have weddings that are multi-day, in some cultures, they do have that. Or if you have a destination wedding where you're like, hey, I want everybody to kind of get together for dinner the night before, and then you've got the wedding, and then maybe do a brunch the next day. We have that feature now in the app. So we're trying to really get those right before we roll it out even more features, but then, of course, even into the Android store as well.
That's so cool. The reason why I thought this was like really brilliant, why I was really excited to talk to you about it was it's almost like a oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting. It's like the event software that people use to like sell tickets on. Like Livation or Ticketmaster. Yeah. Well, kind of similar to that. It's not the exact one. We used it for the Viva launch party in Vegas also at Wedding MBA. Whatever. It'll come to me. Not important. The point is having a central place where you can have all of the like event details. So often guests are like left in the dark except for the little printed out, stationery that you receive. And it's so cool. And I can see so many applications for partnerships and for, everything else. Like, I just think this is going to absolutely blow up. So I'm really excited you're doing it. When it comes to, and before we get to kind of some of the nuts and bolts, what were some maybe misconceptions or things that you learned post releasing the app at its outset that you maybe wish you knew from like the tech side of things? Or was this stuff that you already knew because of both of you previous background in tech?
Oh God, I can jump in here for a quick second. Yeah. So, obviously lots of lessons learned, especially when you're dealing with tech. Like, inevitably, I think most people are, can say, oh, if you're dealing, with tech, you're probably going to bump it, have some bumps in the road, things are never going to go exactly right. Things might be delayed because of whatever reason, right? I think personally for me, and Jen, I'll let you in, of course, but, for me, I had that going in. I work in tech, so I'm certainly accustomed to that. But I guess I didn't realize how long of a delay we would have, right? Like we had initially thought we would launch this within, maybe 9 to 12 months, somewhere in there, give ourselves a little bit of flexibility. Because Jen had the idea, she had a lot of the features already rolled out, but, we're a small startup, like many of you, right, listening. So obviously not unlimited funds. So how can we make this a reality, but also make it what users want, right? Like, we want to make it something that's actually useful and can help small businesses along the way. And so for me, that I think was definitely a lesson learned. It definitely took probably twice the amount of time that we were originally looking at. We went to Wedding MBA twice, say, hey, it's coming. We went the first year and we're like, okay, it's coming. We're launching in a couple of months. Next year, we're still there. We're like, it's almost here. And so that I think was certainly a lesson learned.
Yeah. And I think too, from the other perspective, where I'm actually putting this in my events, it's trying to think through, okay, well, how do you best explain this to other wedding pros? How do you best explain this to the couples that are going to use this at their event? And this is the first app of its kind. It's not it's not a wedding planning app. It's not trying to replace the wedding website. And so because it is so niche, it's like, okay, well, how do you explain how it works? And so I think we have gotten our legs and we found kind of the way to message it and started rolling it out on events. Every time I present this to a couple to use at their event, I have not had one couple say no, because even if they use one feature, not only is it going to be tech savvy, which, most of the couples today are on their phones constantly, their friends are on their phones, but they're also saving money, right? They don't have to print a menu card. They can put the menu in the app. They don't have to print a seating chart. They can put that in the app. And so, as we all know, towards the end of that planning process, they're looking for ways to cut funds because at the beginning, they're spend happy. And so they want to buy everything, pay for all the vendors, and then they're like, oh my gosh, where did my budget go? And so this is a way to kind of come in, even at the end of the process if necessary, and say, look, we can put some features on here. It can be a hybrid model. You can have some prints and some digital, and really kind of make it unique and have something different that your friends didn't have at the 7 weddings you went to last year. Right.
Yeah.
Hey there, wanted to take a quick break and share a little bit about Common Sense Events and the consulting services that we provide. In the past year, Common Sense Events has been able to partner with several venues and provide consulting services around everything from marketing, sales, and operations. We've worked with families, helping smooth out operational hiccups. We've worked with teams to help their marketing departments book more events, and we've worked with sales teams to make sure they're able to have higher converting tours. So if that sounds interesting to you, we would love to have a conversation about that. You can contact us at venues@cseventservices.com. You can honestly just reach out you can also just reach out on the podcast and send us a DM if this is interesting to you. But we would love to talk with you and see if there's a way that we can partner with you and your venue and help make your venue run smoother. All right, back to the show.
Do you feel like there is an application for more vendor promotion? So you'd be a planner telling your couple to get on this app versus like your marketing strategies. Are you trying to approach vendors to say, hey, adopt this and refer people over? And Jenny said the venue side as well. Or is your market more couples right now?
Nicole, yeah, great question. We've toyed with this a little bit and gone, I think, back and forth. And again, I think another lesson learned whenever you're kind of, in the startup phases, who is our target market? We thought we had it. And then I think we pivoted. But really, with Jen being in the industry and Jen being a wedding pro herself and just really knowing the ins and outs and the challenges that, come from, being kind of a one-woman show or just a couple people show, how can we help? I think what we settled was how can we help the planners, the venue owners, the wedding pros really level up their business? Like often, a lot of them are, very small businesses. So how can, in our small way, help, monetize, help you make some money, help lift some of the load off your shoulders, so we really kind of do target the, the wedding pros, the venue owners, the DJs even, right? So of course, if couples find us on Instagram or they hear about us, of course, we're never going to turn them away because obviously we want them to use it. If wedding guests find us on Instagram, of course, we're never going to turn them away. But really, wedding pros, they know the ins and outs. I think it's just an experience they can really set themselves apart with other, venue owners that are maybe in their market. It's just a way to kind of really, I think, level up your offerings because not everybody has this yet, right? So how can you kind of set yourself apart? And this is one way to do that.
That's huge because especially in today's market with how congested it's become and everything, those little ways that you can set yourself apart and provide that additional experience is huge. Jen, I wanted to ask you about the venue at this point. Like, how did that come into play? Where's the venue located? And so, yeah, let's kind of go on that tangent and we'll bring it back around.
Sure. So the venue it's called the Sky Room. So my planning company is Southern Skies Events. And so it kind of plays off of each other, but two separate businesses. And it's going to be here in North Carolina in a city called Pittsburgh, so not too far from the Triangle. I've actually been working towards this for 16 years, if you can believe it. I started in high school. I wanted a wedding venue. That was it. That was the end-all be-all dream. Went to college for entrepreneurship to get this venue, started working in the events industry through catering at the beginning, and then moved into planning to build the experience needed to understand the industry. I've been a venue manager. I've done a lot of things, tried to just see everything from every perspective possible. And so finally it has come to fruition. We got 10 acres out in Pittsburgh and we're building from the ground up so that I can accommodate as many vendors as possible and make it as exciting of a place to work as it is to get married.
That's I love how you said that. As exciting a place to work as it is to get married. That's so great. I think the venues that are designed like that have the best chance for kind of the longevity, because you have vendors now that want to refer you again and again and again because it's just so easy to work there.
Yeah,
and
let's hope.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, I think anyone listening to this, if you've been in the industry for any amount of time, you've been to those venues that maybe they're gorgeous, but the kitchen area is just like this little tent with a little, hose for some running water or something. Or like, we came from a staffing background, so we've been there. But that is so neat. So what stage, it sounds like you just bought it, you're doing the build. What stage is all that in?
So I just came from signing the paperwork, which is why my hair's done. But
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we actually break ground tomorrow. The construction team has been ready. There were some delays with the town and with some other things. And so they're raring to go. So we're going to get started right away. And it's going to be a steel building. There are a lot of barns around here. And so I wanted to do something different. And so there is I made a rule with my team. There's no wood going into my venue at all. And so there's going to be some glass. It's going to be very contemporary, very modern, with some industrial touches. And so the steel is actually on its way. It should be here at the end of the month. So it's a little bit more of a prefab construction project, half of it at least. So that'll help it go up a little quicker. So even though we are just getting started on construction, it should be here at the beginning of 2024.
Oh,
2025. Sorry.
That's amazing.
I wish. Yeah.
6 months. 7.
It is.
It's so cool.
Very quick build, which we're excited about.
That's awesome, especially when it's modular like that and you don't have to go through some of the typical, phases. That's super neat. Well, congratulations. I mean, the fact that you just came there, we're going to have you back on the show in like a year and be like, okay, you're 4 months in, 6 months in, tell us about the venue, tell us about the app. So as a now both venue owner and, the co-founder of this app, I'm curious for both of you, how are you going to utilize maybe your venue and then even your relationships with other venues to kind of promote this app, and how can it really help venues have a better experience for their guests who come and for the couples that they're serving?
Absolutely. So how I plan to use it, first of all, is it will be incorporated in my package. So it's a feature just like you say, the lounge set is included, so is the app, right? And each couple can choose whether or not they use it, but they're paying for it. So similar to some of you venue owners out there who have an extensive decor collection on site and they say, okay, well, I want to use some of this, but not all of it. And if they choose not to use any of your decor, they're still paying the same price. And so this is where, it's just going to be a feature that's looped in for me. I'm going to add a little bit more cost-wise to the package, and it's just going to be looped in, because if they do take advantage of it, it's going to be me who's managing it, or, the planner who's going to be managing it, because if there needs to be updates made in real time, they're going to be the ones on site who are making those updates. Hey, we no longer have, Bud Light is out on the bar, or what have you. And so that's how I plan to use it. I've already talked to a bunch of venue owners about using this, and they're very excited to do it. I think those venues that have in-house planning have been the first to jump on board because it's easier to implement. They're going through the planning process already. It's not just, hey, you're renting the venue from me. But we have had several a lot out west, actually, that want to incorporate this as part of their venue sale, or their venue rental, excuse me. And so they're implementing it as part of their package, kind of doing that same thing. And so they're making profit off of it, essentially, right? It is a service. You're offering this additional service on top of the rental. And it's easy. Nicole can talk about this a little bit more with future features, but we're putting the finishing touches on web-based, right? So as a planner, I could go into my planning docs and just copy and paste into the app. So it takes me no time at all, but it's still a service that I'm doing. And it's more so the service the day of if something needs to change. If we need to send out a push notification, hey, because of the rain, we're moving inside, or something like that. That's kind of where that service comes in, and is really easy to implement and give them that experience. The other thing too with venues, I'm sure we're all seeing it, right? Like you mentioned, it's getting congested everywhere. I think this, like Nicole mentioned, this helps set you apart from your competition in your direct market. I think the other part of this is we're seeing a lot of Gen Z couples come through. And we, all of Wedding MBA the last time was, how do you attract Gen Z? Well, we're seeing more sustainability trends come up, right? And we're seeing people want to cut costs. We're in the middle of inflation, right? We've got all these things going. And so this app helps with all of those issues, right? You're going to stand apart from your competition. You're going to attract the Gen Z because they're always on their phone. They're always looking for the hottest, newest trend, anything that they can do to be different from their friends that got married. And then, they're going to save money and they're going to help the planet because they're not printing a bunch of stuff. So you've got a lot of different sides that you can go to. We also have, I talked to a planner that does destination weddings in Italy. And she's like, it's great. This is free form text. I can do it all in English and I can do it all in Italian. So everybody can see, just so many different uses for this. And we're finding more and more every time we talk to a new subset of people and vendors.
That's so cool. Nicole, what's your, I'm curious also, so if you could touch a little bit of what Jen touched on, but then also just kind of go into the feature stack. And I'd love to hear about the pricing model that you have, because I know you mentioned that a couple of times. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So thank you. So, really, as Jen mentioned, this app is really built for flexibility. We know that some couples like to give a ton of detail. Some couples maybe want to give a little bit less information, right? So it really is flexible. So you can meet couples wherever they are. So, I think a couple of my favorite features, one is the bar tab, right? Like when you have large weddings, you have 150, 300 guests, bar lines tend to get pretty long, right? So there's a bar tab, it helps reduce your bar line and people know what's at the bar ahead of time. So if there's a certain cocktail that the couple wanted, for that wedding, they know, and they, can have their order ready ahead of time. I think another really cool feature is the menu tab as well. We know a lot of people have dietary restrictions now. So you can list everything that's on the menu.
So the menu tab, you can list the dietary restrictions, what's gluten-free, what has nuts in it. A lot of times that happens with cake flavors, right? So you can list all those things on the menu and people with those dietary restrictions can be smart, can know what to eat and what to avoid. And so I'll turn it back over to you, Nicole, now that you're back on with it.
So I think some of my favorite parts are really, the flexibility of the app, right? As Jen mentioned, it's free form. So some, couples might want to include a ton of information about their day. Some maybe want to include a little bit less. And so really the app is intentionally designed to be flexible so you can meet guests where they are. Some of the cool features I think that we have on the app is, the bar tab. So you can reduce that line at the bar, especially for those larger events where you might have 150 or 300 people at a wedding. Those bar lines tend to get long. So people know what's at the bar and can have their order ready. Also, same thing with the menu tab. We, again, you can list your dietary restrictions, what's gluten-free on the menu. Again, for those larger weddings, help shorten that buffet line so people know where to go. And I think, we have a lot of cool tabs, cool features. We have the schedule tab, so you can list the order of events. You can list your ceremony program in there. Again, you can list as much or as little information as you want. I think the one of my favorite features is really the multi-day tab, right? So I know usually, American weddings, it's a one-day affair, but sometimes you might want to invite people, if you're having, the rehearsal dinner the night before, you want to make sure your guests know where to go, where things are, what's on the menu, where to be, what time. If they're going to do anything after that, you have, that multi-day feature that you can include there. You can include obviously the details of the wedding. And then if you're going to do a brunch, say the next day with some family and friends, include the features there. So I think that's probably one of my favorites. And then I think also, we have a searchable seating chart. So again, with those large weddings, where's grandma sitting? Somebody can help her find her seat, type in the name, and yep, you're over at table 3. So I think that's another really cool feature of the app as well.
Awesome. I feel like there's so many different applications, and you're probably you probably even know all of those because you've been thinking through this. But it seems so neat because so many, and we've seen this shift with the venues that we manage. We've seen this shift towards really the younger generation wanting everything to be experience focused and experience based. And you're talking about multi-day events, but even if it isn't multi-day, if it's more like, hey, we're gonna we're going to do this and that. There's like maybe some activities or other things outside of kind of the traditional, ceremony, cocktail, reception sort of format. You can put all of that information in and have this kind of central communication.
Totally. I do, because I think you're 100% spot on, especially for venue owners, right? Like, especially if you have other things that are at your venue. Maybe you're on a vineyard, or maybe you have a little shop that guests can buy things at. You're really, with this app, you're really helping the guests choose their own experience, like choose their own adventure, right? So if the couple is off and they're maybe taking pictures and they have an hour of time, you can let the guests know that, and they can roam around and they can go to your shop, or they can maybe sample some wine, or, there's other features that you have at your venue that you want to, show your guests. It's a great marketing opportunity to, beyond just the day of and beyond just that wedding, right? You're showcasing your awesome venue for all these hundreds of guests that, maybe wouldn't have thought to do that. So, you can think of it as a marketing tool for your space as well. Let the guests choose their own adventure and showcase some of the great, things that set your venue apart from others.
And this might be totally in the future and something you've already thought of, but are you considering any sort of like opportunity to API integrate with maybe catering companies? Because I know you mentioned the food chart thing. That would be so interesting if people are uploading their food stuff. They're not RSVP in the app, are they?
No,
they're not. And they're not choosing their meals in the app either. But we have had discussions about using AI and some other things to create more of a personalized profile. So if you in your profile, you could maybe put in, hey, these are my dietary restrictions and this is my drink of choice. And so hopefully down the road, it can give you suggestions on, hey, your drink of choice is not on the bar, but you might enjoy these types of drinks. And so those types of things are things that we have thought through, and we are hoping to incorporate them down the road.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because with weddings, you're oftentimes just setting up this incredible experience. You mentioned barns. There's certainly plenty of barns out there, but all these other spaces, and sometimes it's even just a completely pop-up sort of space where it's a tent or it's a total build out. But it is like a dinner, like you'd have in a restaurant, but you can't fully have that full restaurant experience because it's not set up to have repeatable business. It's just kind of that one-time thing. So this seems to bring a lot of, even from a food side and organization side, it seems to bring a lot of organization into the actual event and updates and knowledge for the guests, not just the people who are involved planning it, which is brilliant. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited too. I think I'm planning to use it for open houses at my venue, right? Let people kind of maneuver, see what I have planned at my open house, make sure that they go visit all the vendors. There's a vendor tab, so I can give the vendors some love that helped me put all this together. And so you can use it for a lot of different things. I've had people ask if they can use this instead of sending out vendor emails, which, vendors don't always read those emails until the week of or the day of. Can we give them the code and they can look at it and not necessarily share with the guests, but they can download it for free and just see all of the stuff in there and then be aware of any changes that happen throughout the night, instead of you having to go find the photographer when the bride decides not to do a bouquet toss, or, any of those updates that we're running around getting our steps in, right? You can just send a quick push notification, hey, no more bouquet toss, depending on which audience you're trying to reach that day.
That's amazing. That's so cool. You mentioned the pay a couple times. You said the free option. How is the paid? Is there a paid option? Is there a free option? Kind of give me the breakdown of how the app works in terms of that.
Yeah. So right now it is free. So all the things that we just talked about, it is a free download. So you can go to the App Store right now, look at Wedding Crasher app, download it for free, and try it out. There's no risk. Just download it, try it out, see how you like it. And if you want help, if you're like, hey, I can't figure this out, which it should be pretty easy, user-friendly, pretty easy, but we're happy to provide a demo live one-on-one with any wedding pro that, wants to try it out and see if it'll work for them for an upcoming wedding. So it is all free right now. So it is free for wedding season, but we will eventually start to charge for it. And so there will be different structures in place. It'd be subscription based for a year. So you can choose your own adventure. Try it once for a certain amount, or you can do a yearly subscription or monthly subscription as well. So, we're trying to make it as flexible as possible to hopefully solve some challenges for all the wedding pros out there. But yeah, right now it's free, so check it out.
And then it is always free for the guests. Always free for the guests.
I was going to ask, so in the future, I know this is kind of down the road, but the idea would be it's free for the guests, but it might cost the planner, the venue, whoever, and then maybe that cost is passed on to the client, maybe, or maybe not.
Exactly. So we have, the structure that we had in place is if a client wants to buy it, right, one time use, it's one-time fee of $99, right? So, $100 in the grand scheme of things, if you're not printing menu cards, you've already saved a couple hundred, right? So we wanted to make it affordable. We want to make it, a good option for people, a good alternative. And so they would download it, then they would be the ones with the, in charge of making those updates, making those changes, which is why we recommend it for wedding pros, right? We like to be in control. It's kind of across the board there. And we like to be in control of those changes. We don't want our couples going in making changes without us being aware of them, right? And so, whoever downloads it and purchases it in the future is going to be the one that has the control over making those changes. It's not shared with your couple or anything like that. And then each individual event is given a unique PIN code that's generated through the app. And that is shared with couples, that's shared with guests. And then when the guests download it for free, they're given access to the event page, and it says, enter your PIN here, your guest PIN. They would just enter the PIN, click submit, and then they get access to all of the information for that couple.
That's so cool. So, and I want just everyone listening and watching, in the time that we've been on the podcast, just in the last couple seconds, I went to the App Store, I downloaded the app, I signed in. It's very, very easy to get in. So huge kudos on that. But I'm wondering when I'm looking at the main screen, and I want to encourage people to go download and actually check this out. When you are looking at the main screen and it says, are you a guest attending a Wedding Crasher wedding or organizing a wedding? There's kind of those two options. In the go to events, that's where you're entering that code.
Yes.
Right? That little beautiful. That's very, very, it makes sense. Intuitive is the word I'm looking for. It seems like this would be awesome. And the app is beautiful. So kudos. It's really neat. Very cool.
Thank you. I think one of the other things too that somebody pointed out to me, we have very large font. And I think it's funny because that was something that was not necessarily intentional, but it was kind of a happy accident. And all the wedding pros that we've talked to, they're like, yeah, I have to go into my timeline and I have to just zoom in when I'm in the middle of an event. And it just takes that extra few seconds that are so precious to us in the event industry. And so having this big font, it's been a proven blessing in disguise. So that was another exciting hidden feature that we came across.
That's awesome. There's so many applications for taking tech and using tech to solve some of the problems that we've all been solving. And we love spreadsheets here, but let's face it, if you go to open a spreadsheet link and then if you're on an iPhone, they're constantly asking you if you want to open the Sheets app, and many of us may not have that. And then so it's like X, you're trying to figure out what to actually do. If it's straightforward, if it's there, you can access it. That's great. And then especially for guests who they're not, most of them probably aren't professional, wedding goers or event pros. And so it's a little bit of like a foreign experience, and making it easy just makes so much sense.
I'll just add, I wish I had this app, years ago, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know if anybody that's done a destination wedding. Have you ever done a destination wedding?
Me? No.
Yeah. Never gone?
Actually, just kidding. I mean, destination from where we're at. We don't manage any properties that are, I would say, primarily destination, that's our market. But I've attended some destination weddings before.
Right, as a guest, right? Yes, exactly. So same. And, I wish I had this app a few years ago, because I remember going to Aruba for a friend's wedding, right? And I would look at the wedding website to see if there was updated details. And Aruba, we're getting closer to leaving. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there for 5 days. Am I just part of the, I wasn't in the wedding party, but I was, one of 30 guests attending. And I remember thinking, I'm like, do they want us to help with anything? Do they want us to attend anything? Is it just for the party? Wasn't sure what was going on. So, I'm texting the bride, and kind of felt a little bad because I know she was leaving ahead of everybody else. And didn't really hear back from her. We had spotty internet at the time. And then, reached out to a couple of friends that I knew was attending. And, I was looking at it from the perspective of as a wedding guest, right? Like, I wish I had this app so I knew exactly what was going on. So I can say, hey, I want to actually schedule a tour of the island, or I want to do this Jeep tour, like there's nothing going on this day. I'm going to do this, or maybe I just want a day by the pool. So, again, when you think about that wedding experience, definitely that's why we created it, right? We really wanted to make sure we created that ultimate wedding guest experience so people can really choose their own adventure, choose their own experience at these weddings. Because that I know sometimes it's a little bit, gives people anxiety to go somewhere, especially to another country, and they're not sure what they're doing or where they're going or what time everything is. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. I love it. Jen, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on today. This is really neat. Just like I did, everyone, go check this app out. It's pretty neat what y'all are doing. And I'm so excited for you, Jen, with the new venue and the build and all the progress there. I know, things always take a little bit longer and a little bit more expensive, but you're doing it. You're getting started. You're going. You're moving through all the roadblocks. So really excited to hear that. And just with this app, I love what you're doing. And so thanks for coming on and sharing what's the best way if people want to connect or even just maybe have quick random questions or something like that. What's the best way to connect?
Absolutely. They can, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Wedding Crasher app. I manage the page. And so if you DM me on there, you're going to get me. I'm posting on there as well. And then it has our email, it has our website. So you can get us through any of those forums. You're going to reach us. We're a small business, right? So you're going to get the owner every time. So that's probably the easiest way, but we're always looking for feedback. We're always looking for reviews. If you open it and you love it or you're excited about it, go ahead and give us a review. We're trying to get more people to know about it and get to using it. So we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a lot of fun hearing about it, and I can't wait till more people discover it. Hopefully plenty through the podcast here, but thanks for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Thank you. And if I could just mention one more thing, Jonathan.
Yeah.
One future feature that we have that we're super excited about, or at least I am, is customizing the app. So right now there are a bunch of photos in there. We are working on being able to upload photos of your own couples. So each event is unique in there. And then past that, we're actually working on white labeling it. So you would have the opportunity to remove our logo and put your logo in. So it looks like the app belongs to the venue rather than Wedding Crasher.
That's so interesting. So I have all the questions about this. I don't know if you want to put it on the podcast, but so would that, the idea in mind there is, would they, we use this thing called Mighty Networks for an app for the Weave community right now. And I know there's like school and other ones, Kajabi, obviously people know about for courses and things like that. So would you go and you download the Wedding Crasher app, but then when you entered the interface, it would be all customized for the venue? Or would you be able to go download the XYZ venue app?
You would download Wedding Crasher, but then when you open the experience, it would be whether it's your logo for the venue, whether it's the couple's monogram, whatever you choose to put in there. You can do your colors, your logo if you want, and it would look like it belongs to your venue specifically.
That's so cool. That is so neat. I love that. That's awesome. So I know you mentioned multi-day is one of the features that are being rolled out pretty soon. Is that correct?
It's already rolled out. It's in there.
Okay. And then you said this one's coming out. Are there any other features that we should be looking for in the next couple months?
Nicole, any you want to mention?
Yeah, I would say push notifications for sure. That's something that's been, we had to it was originally, as part of our initial rollout, but had to kind of roll it back to get the app out there. So push notifications for sure. And then of course, the Android version will be coming as well.
Awesome.
And then the customization that Jen was just talking about will be coming.
It's so neat. I absolutely love this. This is great. I love what you're doing for the community, and it just solves a lot of problems, and I love that. So great. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for adding that, Jen. That was I'm glad we did not miss that. That's huge.
Very
this has been fun. Well, hey, let's stay in touch because I'd love to have you back on. Maybe we have you on in another year or so, and track with some venue progress, some app progress, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for having us.
All right.
We really appreciate it.
Yep, my pleasure. Talk soon.
Hey friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. If you are a venue owner and you're struggling with your marketing, your sales, your operations, or maybe there's just, you're new to the industry and you want to really have a leg up and get a jump start on getting your business going and not make a lot of the mistakes that oftentimes people make, the mistakes that we made, frankly, when we first started, we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. Our team has experience working with over 10 venues all across the United States, doing consulting. We've hosted hundreds and hundreds of weddings at this point, and we know what it takes to be successful. If this sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can either reach out by filling out the link in the description of the video or podcast, or you can just email us at venues@cseventservices.com, and we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. All right, back to the show.